Sea Wolves, and welcome back to the show. I hope you had a great day. We got some cool updates to make the day even better, but before we do that, are you ready? I hope you have something delicious in your cup. 3, 2, 1.
It's nice to see some sunshine out here. Last night was brutal and dark and seemed to go on forever. The front was a bit of a nasty one, not massively windy, but the sea state was big and we were absolutely slamming through it. I was physically being lifted off my feet. Whatever I was doing, I was just being thrown into the air and dumped back down again. We had a few casualties down below. So a couple of the bunks where we stack our kits on, the brackets broke, so then there are big heavy boxes of tools all flying around, which is not great. And sadly, my Parrot, the radar display bounced off its bracket and then was swinging round on its cables, punctured Polly, and I think he looks a bit how I feel this morning. But sadly, the biggest consequence of that front last night was our mainsail, which ripped at Reef 1. Quite a big rip, which means we can't use the sail other than with 2 reefs or 3 reefs in it. At the moment, that's not too bad because it's still quite breezy. But further down the track, there's going to be a massive impact. So as ever, we're working with Joff and the team on the shore to try and work out what a repair looks like. But one thing's for sure, won't be doing any repairing until all of this has just kind of calmed down a bit. It's really tough, and I didn't want to do this update because I just feel like I'm letting everyone down. But you know, I know, we all know that on these races everyone has problems. The whole fleet has had problems, and actually it's how you come back from these things that makes the difference. And I know I've said it before, but it's finding a solution, it's finding a way to move forward, which is what we're good at, and it's what we'll do. And part of our race schedule leading up to the Vendée is to kind of learn about these weaknesses, make sure we don't share them, continue with them into the Vendée programme. But it's gutting for me. I feel, yeah, like I'm not doing my job properly at the moment. But I'm very tired, and tomorrow's another day, and I'm sure there's always going to be a way to come back fighting, and that's what we'll do.
Ah, so nice to see Pip in action again there. Of course, I wish it was in better circumstances, but on the other hand, even though of course they have this damage to the mainsail and they can only use it above Reef 2, so far, like she said, the winds are strong, so it's not really handicapping them right now. Of course, they do have the 5-hour penalty, so you know that really sucks. But as far as the sailing, as long as the wind stays strong, she should be okay. And well, let's hope that they can actually make repairs as soon as the wind gets a bit lighter, which should be pretty soon, actually. In fact, there's actually a good chance that many of the Imocas are going to get stuck a little bit. And well, why don't we just start with the Imocas right away? So if we look at the tracker here, we can see Charal, Jeremie Beyou and Frank Cammas, well, comfortably in the lead. Well, you know, they got like a 30 nautical mile lead right now, so that's actually pretty good. With Thomas Ruyant here and Arkea per preg, so they're kind of sort of as a tri-union going down there, and then up here we have a teamwork a little bit further up in position 4. But overall, Charal, I think, clearly outperforming, and it's not just in speed, but if you look kind of at the line that they've been sailing, you see that they've consistently been considerably higher upwind than all of the other Imoca. So I think it's also kind of a bit of a sign that whatever their new boat does, and it's not just all down to the rudder, right? Like there are a lot of innovations there. It's one of the boats that's been sailed the longest, right? Came out as one of the first new Imocas after the Vendée Globe 2020, and yeah, we just see that all that experience, you know, it's the Imoca with the most miles sailed so far. It just really pays off, and they just seem super fast under all circumstances. And right now, still doing about a knot more than the number 2. And that'll probably continue. But if we look at the actual weather, we can actually also see it in this little map here. We do see that they're very much about to kind of go into the big high pressure here off the coast of Spain. And so, yeah, what's going to happen next is going to be interesting because, well, if we actually skip over to the weather to take a look at how that's going to develop. So it's the doldrums, we'll get there later. But of course, so right now they are off the coast of Spain, somewhere around, let's see, about twice. So somewhere around here. So this is kind of like in a V shape, kind of where the fleet is now. And if we look at kind of like what the weather's going to do, so this is the weather right now. You can see that the azure high laying in front of them there. They're entering the field now, and if we go 12 hours ahead, we still there, but kind of circulating. So in that case, going sort of from where they are, pretty much straight down, or a little bit more towards the coast. Will give them still some wind. Then another 7-10 hours further, we see that actually we got some good wind with the high sort of like breaking up and a part of it moving downwards a little bit. Then another 10 hours later, we see quite a bit of wind again. And then going into Saturday, we see that it just kind of keeps lowering there. And so the road through isn't exactly obvious. We see that it's very patchy with some real areas with no wind at all, but also with some pretty broad bands of areas where they could probably get through. So if we zoom out a little bit here, we can kind of see again. So right now they're kind of here. If we continue, we see it kind of moving towards the coast and then downwards, and we see that there really isn't any particularly ideal place, and it's like this particular part of like weather prediction is notoriously hard to figure out. Like these are really estimations of where these holes will show up, but from 100 meters to another 100 meters or a kilometer to a kilometer is very, very hard to predict where exactly those points, those kind of breaks that you kind of see, right? You can see kind of the streaks where you have like where it's a little bit more narrow, where you have a little bit more wind through. Those are, even in the predictions, very hard to accurately predict. But so far it looks, at least, because they could have gone a bit more to the west, right? They could have chosen to go deeper, but so far they haven't really done that. And it looks like the entire fleet has kind of decided, for now at least, to just kind of move straight down, take a more or less straight southwestern course, and just kind of hope for the best. And in a way, that's a strategy because, like within a sailing race, so if you stay with everybody else and you stay close enough to your direct competitors around you, that pretty much guarantees that you are going to be in the exact same weather that the people that are close to you are, right? And so within sailing races, even if your close competitors get very unlucky or very lucky, you're going to be right there, and so it's going to keep you there. But whenever you kind of split off from the main body of the pack, let's say, and do something else, of course sometimes that can really pay off and you can be miles and miles and miles ahead of the group. But if it doesn't pay off, often you're going to be miles and miles and miles behind, because everybody who stays together kind of moves together. So the advantage is maybe not so big, but the disadvantage is also going to be not that big. And so what we're seeing right now is that yesterday was kind of a choice. Who's going to go much more to the west? Who's going to kind of sort of stay more closer to the coast? And right now it looks like pretty much the entire Imoca field has chosen to really kind of stay together. No one has opted for like a much more westerly course, which was an option. There was a lot of talk about it. They are, of course, you know, if you look a lot more west than, for example, the class 40, yeah, you can kind of see where they are. So they're kind of like much more closer to the coast than the Imocas went. They have, of course, also some different course requirements, because they have to go on keep Porto Santo on the starboard side, which the Imocas don't have to do. But you can clearly see that there's some choice to go a bit west, but not as extreme as might have been possible. And so over the next 24 hours, yeah, no one really is going to know, but we can already see that the front of the fleet is kind of compressing, right? So as they're kind of moving into the light wind, all the boats are going to come more together. If those light winds are really persistent, then we're going to probably see everybody really catch up to Charal and the leaders again, and it's going to be, you know, very slowly moving all together through this light wind, trying to catch a patch here or trying to catch a patch there. And then we really have to wait until they make it kind of through that field. So again, if we look here at the weather image a little bit more in the weather prediction. So right now, well, if we move ahead, so in 5-6 hours increments, we see that yeah, there really is no way from them to get like with full wind on through there. Saturday, they're now, you know, by Saturday they're going to like easily be somewhere, let's say, in this band of area. But you know, there's clearly no really good option to move through there. So it's going to be very much like local choices. We see over Sunday it getting a bit thicker, but by then they're either in the middle of it or somewhere through it, or maybe some of them get lucky and are already underneath. And yeah, basically as soon as they make it through there, then of course things are going to be a lot more easier, because, well, for the Imocas it's going to be a virtually ideal scenario where they're going to be using the trade winds, which is basically a straight downwind course. And usually in that band of weather they're just going to have rock steady winds, you know, 15 to 20 knots, maybe a squall here and there, maybe a storm here and there, maybe a little patchy here and there. But in general, the kind of the arc that you can make here, right, to kind of move down like that, is almost always, you know, pretty good as far as just getting to the islands in a great pace. So yeah, that's kind of what's going to happen over the next 2-3 days. We're going to see how they're going to move through this. And yeah, for my mind, it looks like the whole fleet is probably going to compress and then very slowly all together make their way through. So that's kind of it for the Imocas. Then let's move on to the Ultims, of course, because a lot happened there over the next 24 hours. So like I discussed in the last episode, we saw SVR L'Atlantique actually overtake doing the rounding of Ascension Island. But now, of course, that they've had really good wind in the back, so they've been downwind sailing, which is optimal for the Ultims, and doing incredible speeds. Even right now, we see 34, 33, 34, 30 knots. So they're doing, you know, they're full on speed again. And credit where it's due, Banque Populaire has managed to again overtake SVR L'Atlantique in this sort of downwind jibing battle, because they can't go exactly right downwind, so they have to kind of, you know, for course to jibe here and there. And right now their lead is about 40 nautical miles, am I right? Yeah, about 40 nautical miles. So that's not inconsiderable. That's a pretty good lead again that they built up. So lots of kudos there. Of course, what we do see is, well, we see here the destination. If we move back to kind of the weather prediction, so we can see the kind of here, right? And right now they're kind of, let's say, in this area. And if we look at the weather, so right now, pretty good winds. We see that the doldrums, however, are a lot more active and extending all the way across the Atlantic now in a very active fashion. So if we fast forward, we see that widening, and you know, as you can see, that kind of bloom off of Africa is reaching, you know, pretty well. I'm not going to say close. This is still hundreds of miles, but it's getting to the point where we have, of course, a giant exclusion zone here, and so the amount of space for them to move through good wind, because ideally they would stay quite close to the coast. I don't know why they made this exclusion zone. Maybe also pirating can be an issue, of course, in there. So yeah, weather-wise, if we keep fast forwarding, we see that the doldrums just very active over the next 3-4 days. We see that even extend, you know, like clearly, like as far almost all the way to the other side. And so, yeah, they're very likely to again run into a much patchier, amount of wind. So it's gonna not be, you know, as solid as it was kind of on their way down there as they went through the doldrums. It's going to be much more problematic getting back up again. And so I foresee that also in the next 2 days or so, they're going to also probably several times kind of slow down again quite a bit. You can see right now, for example, also again a good patch of like light weather kind of right ahead that they're going to have to avoid. You can see here that exclusion zone very clearly, and so on that path that they probably want to take, because the ideal course is of course somewhere around there, they're going to see quite some problems with wind, like around here, like basically from here, where they really get into the zone where the doldrums on that side are going to be affecting them also. So we might see a few lead changes there also. Is very much also the luck of the draw, who gets, you know, nice wind, or who maybe just misses a nice patch of a nice wind, etc. So that's pretty much what's going on there. And for the class 40s, so yeah, we can see that actually the Imocas have kind of caught up with the end of the class 40 fleet. So nicely shows the big speed difference still there, with them of course being more or less a full day ahead. And of course we've seen a fierce leadership battle. Grande of course often in the lead, but now actually in 4th position, with Café Joyeux in 3rd, Ipsa in 2, and Amaras in position 1. Of course, we'll have to see how that translates. Like very often we still seen Grande Pirelli, of course, heading back to the front again. And I would say also, based on the wind now, that they are probably going to be in a slightly better position to kind of use the wind that they're going to get after they kind of got through this, to the high. But we'll see. They're already inside of the weather that the Imocas are about to run into. And if we look at the boat speeds, we see here 1.3 knots, 3.7 knots, 3.1 knots. So, yeah, like when you choose to go, straight through, that's just basically what it is. And Grande Pirelli, of course, had a nice lead basically yesterday, then ran into this, and we see that basically the full leading class 40 fleet compressing, and we'll see the same thing. So there'll be still some distance between kind of the first part of the fleet and the second part of the fleet, which is kind of the weather from the Day of Biscay, those who kind of made it past the high, and those who kind of caught up in it. And we're kind of seeing that again. So yeah, the second fleet will also compress. I don't think they'll fully catch up, but they'll definitely make up some miles, as the second fleet is still doing something like 5, 7, 9 knots of boat speed, while of course the rest is doing basically 1 or 2 knots right now. So hard to say again with this type of area of high pressure moving through at very low speed. It's really also a lot of luck, a lot of eye spotting, just looking at the ripples. Oh, I see a bit of wind there. Oh, I see a cloud coming there. And constantly just 100 meters by 100 meters, mile by mile, weighing your way through an area like that, trying to catch every patch of wind that you can spot and see. And so I think probably another 24 hours before we see that the leaders are racing again, maybe even longer. At this speed it can take almost 2 days, but yeah, I guess we'll check back in tomorrow. So then the last class, the Ocean 50s, and yeah, so we saw quite some damage. One boat officially retired, but the other two, so Lier Medicine and Coiso, both trying to effect repairs off the coast of Spain. And of course in the lead still for a long time now, Solidaires and Peloton, Viabilis Oceans in number 2 and Realités in 3, and they pretty much all made it through the Azores High and are now kind of getting back up into the high speeds again. So we see especially Realités, who's like, you know, in the better wind already, a little bit more closer to the coast, doing 23, 25 knots again, while the rest is still a little bit less wind, but they're also 14 and 19 knots speed again. So yeah, they're going to be resuming their course at full speed towards the waypoint in the Cape Verdes. And yeah, so that's the update for today. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps to push these videos out to more people. Thank you again very much for watching, and see you in the next update. Ciao, ciao!